Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Alone, and in this episode, introducing from Vermont, dentist, founder of a positive global media company, Lynda Ulrich.
Hi, John.
Hello there. So, so let's just get down to a little bit more about what you do, because a positive global media company, I never heard that before, and I'm actually very interested to know more about it.
So, the way the dentist part of this works out is that I was a dentist for 25 years, my husband and I built a practice that's very people deep. It's very oriented towards relationships. So we had people that we'd known over decades and decades. And in 2013, I started to notice that people I'd always known as cheerful and hopeful and upbeat were starting to really drag their knuckles about the level of negativity on the news and social media. Now, back in 2013, of course, we could never dream that we'd be at the level of negativity that we are now. But even back then, I knew that someone had to do something about this. And I kept looking for positive media showing up on the internet. And one day I got an email from a young man from a foxhole in Afghanistan, and he was turning to me to say, hey, is there anything in the world that looks pretty hopeless out here? And I had always been pretty conscientious about finding something to celebrate with every patient. And I think that's why he thought of me. And that sent me on a search of the internet, wide and deep and far, to find someone doing, good news, essentially, not puppies in mailboxes, but real insight and innovation about the good things happening in the world. And after about 2 weeks, I could not find it. And I have a background in writing, and I'm a world traveler. And I said, somebody's got to do this, and it looks like it's going to be me. So I started this big global media company that now has expanded to that point where we've got 7 platforms, and I've written a book, and I've have a TED Talk, and on, all the things. So the last TEDx I did, they billed me as the global positive media mogul. And of course, we all got to laugh at that on our team, but it's probably pretty true.
Okay. And of course, you find joy in doing this, making a media company that's solely promoting positive headlines and news stories and all things positive.
Well, I'll tell you that the bottom line is that the world is super complex, and what we're seeing because of the structure of the internet is only what triggers our worst impulses. That's what's rising to the top. It's not a problem with ingenious ingenuity, innovation, generosity. People are doing the most extraordinary things. There is just this enormous wave of goodness and progress, but it's not rising to the top of our feeds because of the way the internet is built. So what we do at the Goodness Exchange is we just offer a place where people can go instantly to find out about all the good that's happening in the world and just balance their media diet. Because you know how it would be if you just decided, that's it, I'm only going to give my attention to positive news stories. Well, you'd have to look at about 100 horrifying news stories to find that one. And we just recognized we could solve a problem in the world by being that place where people could go immediately, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, and learn and expand their way of thinking about what's possible.
All right, interesting. And what was like for you working as a dentist?
Well, it was a lovely, lovely long career. I was fixing teeth with computers in 2003, so I was in that 1% of dentists that was pretty ahead of the curve as far as technology and so forth. And that was all very intellectually challenging. But really, what my husband and I, take away from the practice is the relationship part, and that's why it's so intricately involved in what we do at the Goodness Exchange, is because we know people and we know social trends from knowing 4,000 people. And so it's all one continuum of experience that pointed to the fact that this is what I'm uniquely built to contribute. Somebody else has their gifts, somebody else has their gifts, and that's what we encourage. We encourage people to find what they're uniquely built to contribute and just do what they can. The world will get better.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So What was your inspiration in putting up a global media company that is solely positive in a way?
Well, it's just I have been very fortunate to have lived a life. My kids have been to remote parts of Tibet. They've gotten lost with us in the Andes. They've played at our feet in Northern Ireland in the IRA headquarters. I was always doing something philanthropic through my professional career. We traveled and drug our kids all over the planet um, on purposeful journeys. And the more we knew about the real picture of humanity, not the picture that we see on the news or social media, the real people living lives of struggle very much some places, but still finding joy. There's beauty everywhere. Um, the more we knew, the more we had to share some slice of that so that more people could have some hope and not believe this very tilted negative narrative about the world.
Okay. And what is your favorite quote?
I have a very favorite book that I love a quote from. There's a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull that was very popular, sold 60 million copies in the 1970s. And then the second book that author wrote was called Illusions. And it's a parable story. And in that book, one of the I would say the sage, the person who, in the character who's positioned as the wisdom individual, says, argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours. So, in that one statement, we can just have some self-awareness about the stories we're telling ourselves. If we say, "Oh, I can't," or "Oh, they won't," or "Oh, that'll never happen," any of those things, those we're arguing for our limitations when you start a sentence like that. Then you own it. Then it is surely true. So I never argue for my limitations. I always argue for even that slim chance, and I usually go after things, and I find that I have a way of making good things happen, or when I don't, I learn something dramatically important.
Great. So, outside your global media company and being a dentist, what else do you do in your free time?
Well, we almost everything in our lives revolves around the goodness exchange, and what we're doing there. Like yesterday, I talked to some people who are connecting me to a monk in India, right on the border of Bhutan, who has started this remarkable school that is teaching children from very unfortunate circumstances, teaching them how to be better humans. They're teaching them the education they need. Most all of them end up in college, but also how to be better at collaborating, how to be more responsible in their community, all kinds of things that we would pretty much all define as being a better human. And so that kind of thing happens over and over and over again in my life. I keep being connected through the goodness exchange and the articles we write about extraordinary people. And so the thing that our life revolves around is travel. I also am a welder. I make giant metal sculptures, life-size dinosaurs out of found metal. I'm a gardener and a very voracious reader. But all those things, kind of now that I really think about it, circle back to the goodness exchange and what the kind of energy and the kind of wholeness that we're trying to put out there for people.
Okay, nice, nice. And is there any places around the world you haven't been to, but you really want to go there?
Yeah, I'm really looking at Moldova. My husband and I keep running into people from Moldova. I don't think most of us know where that is. So that's on our list. There's a little corner of Africa. We've been to Africa several times, but there's a little corner of Kenya that I want to return back to. I don't know. What the plan is in the next year, as my husband retires, then we will take we will take my own podcast, which is called the Conspiracy of Goodness podcast. we will take that show on the road. I'm just going to travel the world and talk to people where they are about these extraordinary ways that there are to live in the world.
Nice. And where was, out of the places you've been to, where was the most relaxing place you?
Um, we once took a great long journey through the Kalahari Desert. And there's something about places like that that are preserved and largely left alone, and where things are rather Spartan. Obviously, it's a desert. Um, that is so peaceful. So how you track and see wildlife in the Kalahari Desert is you pull your Land Rover into a quiet spot, and then you might just sit there, just sit for hours and hours and hours. And that kind of quiet, that kind of stillness, um, no expectations, just being present is very, very relaxing in this kind of world that we're constantly going and doing and managing chaos and running around like our hair's on fire. So I think places that I've been like that. There are other places like the Kalahari Desert that things are very minimalist. There's a place in Nepal, a corner of Nepal that's very much like that as well. Um, and I think that the great thing about that little notion there is that we probably have places like that right handy. We don't necessarily need to go halfway around the world to find places that of stillness. We can probably create them in our own backyards or find them right in our communities. We just have to make the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the one thing you can't live without?
Let's see. I would have to say frequent frequent connections to nature. Like right now as we speak, I'm watching a mother woodpecker feed her three babies that are absolutely harassing her at the bird feeder. That kind of a moment is good fuel for my tank for hours. Or I'll take a walk later and I'll look underneath the leaves of all the milkweed plants to look for uh, a very important butterfly called a monarch butterfly that we have here in the United States. I'll look for their caterpillars. I just need some moments to touch base with the real world almost every day. I could probably never live in a city.
Okay, interesting. And what was the longest trip you've ever taken out of all the places you've been to?
We spent I believe it was 19 days traveling in remote Tibet about 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Wow. Great.
Yeah, the coolest thing about that trip was that the Dalai Lama had made China mad that week because he made some remarks about how China had a giant footprint on climate change. And China got so mad they cut off internet service to Tibet for 3 weeks. And that was the exact window of time that we were there. So the people that we were traveling with, we all just had each other. Couldn't be checking your email or texting someone or taking a selfie and sending it off to your sister. And to have 19 days of being totally present with others in a unique place where everything was new to every single one of us. And then we were visiting monasteries and trying to understand Buddhist art and architecture. Um, it all came together to make an amazing long trip feel very, very short. It felt like a blink of an eye.
Wow. Amazing. What's your favorite season?
What's that? Our favorite season?
Yeah, your favorite season.
Yeah. Well, I live in the state in the United States called Vermont, which is about a 7-hour drive north of New York City and about 1 hour drive from Montreal, Canada. And so uh, we have made ourselves love winter. Vermont, we have snow on the ground until May, could have snow as late as May 15th, and starts usually in mid October to late October. And gosh, if you've got that much of your year, ankle, knee, thigh deep in snow, you got to figure out how to love it. And so we have just countless winter hobbies. And, it's one of those decisions you have to make ahead of time, like happiness. That's one of the things I talk to people a lot about, is that happiness is something you decide about ahead of time. You don't make it based on this or that circumstance, because there's so much in the world we can't control, but we can control our perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And what out of everything, the places you go to, what is the one thing that has changed your life forever?
Hmm. So I was traveling in North Africa when our global travels started when we were very young. My husband was one of the top 20 basketball players in the world when we graduated from high school, and we that introduced us to a whole life of travel. And during those years, a very formative moment happened when I was about we must have been about 22, and we were traveling in North Africa, and we were in a particular city in Morocco that was very famous for its markets. And at one point we got invited into somebody's home, and we were sitting there having some tea with them, mint tea, and I noticed this little girl over in the corner, and first she was shelling peas, and then she was half-heartedly cleaning something that the boys in this family had spilled on the floor. And then the woman of the house was ordering her around. She was just dressed in rags, very much like you. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter aficionado or your audience, but very much the way that they described Dobby. She was my real life version of Dobby from Harry Potter. That's essentially a slave, a child slave, dressed in rags. And I'm telling you, I have a photograph that was taken of us with this family. We were traveling with a National Public Radio journalist, and I can't remember the circumstances of how we were with this family, but in any case, there was a photo taken, and she's just off the side of the photo in the background, looking very, very desperately forlorn. I think she was about 8. And I've never forgot that picture. And the photograph hangs in my bedroom. It hangs in my office. Her piercing eyes. And I started a life of service to others after that moment. I just said to myself, this can't stand. Someone has to do something about this. And I've spent a whole life trying to be kind to others and trying to do what I could do to improve the circumstances of others.
Okay. If you had to get rid of one holiday, which one would it be?
I don't celebrate birthdays very well. If that's a holiday, if I had to pick one of the global holidays, a North American holiday, I Thanksgiving is our most important in the United States for us because we are foodies in our family. My gosh, everyone cooks. Christmas, same thing. It's all about the food. Um, in the United States, we have a weekend called Labor Day. That's a holiday for us. And that's at the end of the summer. I think I would give up that one because it always means the end of the summer.
Oh boy. Where would you see yourself 20 years from now?
Well, my real expertise and what I get interviewed for, I've been interviewed in the same hour as Michelle Obama and Rachel Ray for news outlets. What I get really interested in is helping people what I've learned about our digital lives, the behind the scenes, and I'm really interested in making sure everyone knows the secrets of how the internet is playing with our emotions and the really easy ways that we actually have all the power there in our digital lives, but we feel kind of powerless, but actually we have all the power. And I teach and speak about that all over the world. And so I have no interest in slowing down till we can kind of reimagine the internet in our lives to be the positive progress force for progress that it should be. It needs to be reimagined. So 20 years from now, I hope I'm like the Jane Goodall of the internet.
Nice. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Um, my daughter has just recently come back from living in Slovenia, and we've been to Slovenia many times. It's a country that people are largely unfamiliar with, but they seem to have their act together in a lot of ways. And there's just about everything that you can imagine. It's a small country, sort of up and to the right of Italy, if you're looking at a map. And I think I might live in Slovenia.
Okay, nice. If you have to see, if you have to see one movie for the first time again, which one would it be?
Hmm. Well, I don't really watch a lot of movies. I am uh I'm a big fan of sort of offbeat comedies when I do watch movies. And so I there's a wonderful movie called The Birdcage with with some, 1990s humor. Some of it's probably not very PC anymore, but one of the last big, really wonderful projects that Robin Williams did way back, and I really love that movie, and I can imagine seeing it for the first time again.
Ah, yes, it was good.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So, how many countries have you been to so far?
Well, I don't know about myself, but I know that one of my kids in his college application remarked that he had been to 27 countries. Somehow we have all these flags down in our basement. We always make sure we buy a little flag, little tiny thing, put it on a ceiling. I know that we've been to probably 30, 35, maybe way more. I don't really know. I just know that one of my kids counted once and he had been to 27 by the time he was 18. So well, our kids, we don't travel with much. We only travel with what we can carry on their backs, and they even did that. I had them only taking what they could carry in a little roll-on when they were 6 years old. So they're pretty good at savvy travelers. I think that's the reason why he probably knew right off the top of his head how many countries he'd been to.
Hmm, interesting. If someone wrote a book about you, its title would be.
Hmm. Um, I'm very fond of a phrase that I'll say, "This changes everything." I think I want that on my tombstone. This changes everything. And I think if someone went to the trouble to write a book about me, they would see that I was always changing, always expanding, always really appreciating the fact that every single person I meet improves my way of thinking, and that I had a especially avid way about embracing change. So I would be proud if the book was called "This Changes Everything" because I love change.
That'd be a great title, actually.
Yeah.
He. What's your favorite ice cream topping?
Hmm. Dark chocolate.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
What take oh yeah. What takes a lot of time to master but is definitely worth it?
So I would say I would love to share with you this concept that I teach that takes a little while to master. It takes 3 minutes for me to explain it, but I think it would be helpful and it would answer the question as well. So mastering what you give your attention to. This is the crux of the problem with our digital lives. And the way we think what we know to be true from our what the internet is, what's being served to us, is reality. So what I teach are these 4 shifts that are hard to master, but once you get there, you're going to see a whole new view of the world and other people. So here's the 4 shifts. First, before you click on anything on the internet, pause. Pause. Because content creators are not creating content unless we click on it. And that's where us having all the power on the internet comes in. If we pause and then do the second shift, which is to ignore more. I do not click on anything unless I can answer a question affirmatively. I ask myself, do we need more of this? So I do not click on anything that I don't think the world needs more of. I don't care. A picture of the blobfish on the Weather Channel, I won't click on it. Some crazy headline that's meant to make me angry or fearful or whatever, I don't click on it. So pause is the first shift. Ignore more is the second. That's the hard part because our brains are tuned to look at signs of danger and disorder. And the third shift is to seek signs of goodness and progress. Like make it what you seek. Then your algorithms see that that's what you want and they start sending it to you. And then the fourth one is share it. Share when you see something interesting, good, positive, progress in the world, you share it because that's what content creators care about is what we share. And we can have all the power on the internet. We can create a future that's full of promise and that supports people doing good in the world, but only if we pause, ignore more, seek signs of goodness and progress, and share it. And that is very, very hard. It's a very hard skill to master, but you can. People tell me all the time that I've ruined their lunch hour now because they can't just aimlessly scroll and click, Once they know about the game being played with their emotions and how everyone's counting their clicks, your click is like a vote. It is a vote. It's a vote for more of what you click on. So if you click on mean, angry, crazy, stuff that's ratcheting up the drama in the world, you will, and we all will get more of that.
That's great. And that is great having you here, Lynda, talking about working as a dentist, your positive global media company, you traveled around the world. It's been great.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And until next time, stay opinionated.